Peace, everybody. Welcome to the Protect Your People podcast presented by the Delco Youth Hub. I'm Day One.
I'm Insight, and this is the Delaware County Participatory Defense Podcast. Participatory defense is a community-based model that helps the community and youth to mitigate through the criminal legal system.
So we help young people navigate the criminal legal system. They may have a charge, they might be on probation, etc. And our whole focus and purpose is to get them the best possible outcome. So we offer court support, social bio videos, like Insight said, mitigation packets, and restorative plans, restorative analysis. Really anything we could do to just support this person through this, challenging phase in their life and just get them the best possible outcome. So this podcast is going to be dedicated to the work we're doing in that space. So we're going to be offering systems education here, also giving updates about what's going on in the participatory defense space around the region. And we're going to have some great conversations around values, principles, and, just checking in with each other. So let's get it.
Let's check in. What is one of the most important social justice issues you've been working on in Delaware County?
That's a good question. I would say, to me, it's working to prevent this detention center from being built. So for those of y'all who don't know, Lima Detention Center was closed in 2021. That was the detention center for the entire Delaware County. And it was shut down due to widespread neglect, abuses happening to children. There was a whole grand jury report about it. And, all of the accusations that were, accusing people of just terrible, unimaginable acts against children, they were basically confirmed, but yet nobody was charged. And so actually what was one of the biggest neglects was that the county was supposed to have what was called a board of directors to oversee the functioning and the administration of the detention center. They didn't have that for years since the place's inception. I don't think they had that. But once it closed down, people started asking questions. Well, who was supposed to be overseeing this? They decided to form one. And so in forming, this board of managers for juvenile detention, the board of managers have decided that they're planning to build a new detention center. And it's coming with about a $45 million price tag. And unfortunately, it's just like we're repeating the same mistakes that we've made, and we're really fighting because we have an opportunity right now to do something different. We have an opportunity to be the change that we want to see. We have an opportunity to invest in alternatives and invest in a system that maybe never been seen before, but that actually works. Because one thing for sure, two things for certain: the system is broken. Young people that go into detention, young people that end up being placed, that find themselves in these carceral settings, they're actually more likely to reoffend. Right. And so building this detention center isn't helping the community, it isn't helping young people. And so we have an opportunity to actually invest in something that could, benefit all of us holistically. And so I think that campaign right there is one of, the most important social justice issues to me, especially since I was in Lima Detention Center. I was there. I seen how horrible it was. That experience definitely is not something I want any other young person to go through. So that's one of the most important social justice issues I've been working on. So how about you? What would you consider as one of the most important social justice issues that you've been working on here in Delco?
Yeah, I can say one of the most important social justice issues that I've been working on in Delco is the lack of restorative justice programs. I feel like that is something that actually work. And if we actually get that out into the community, it could save a lot of young people from even stepping into the criminal legal system. But first, we have to find people who are interested and people who are willing to, go through the fundamentals of restorative principles to even have understandings of what that look like before we set scale on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Delaware County is horrible when it comes to restorative justice. And I think part of the reason why it hasn't caught on as much here is because they they invested heavily into what is called like these youth aid panels. And so it's kind of like kid court or children's court a little bit, where they have these young people. I think the age is like from 10 to 17, and if like it's like a low level offense, one of their first
Mhm.
offense, they go to these youth aid panels, and they're it's like a diversion program. But the reason why these youth aid panels aren't successful is because one, they're asking folks to volunteer to be on the youth aid
Mm.
panel. And I get it, but that's not an investment. An investment is paying people and compensating people for their time and energy. And what you do when you ask folks to volunteer is like you're really, alienating or, cutting out a whole segment of society that actually can't afford to volunteer because they're a single parent raising a whole bunch of children, or, they have jobs and obligations. And so if we compensated people, it'll make it a little bit easier for folks to get there. So what we're seeing because of this is that, the affluent areas, the privileged areas, they have, the volunteers, they have their youth aid panels up and running.
Mm.
But areas that are more poverty stricken, that are, challenged a little bit more, um, the youth aid panels are not necessarily a resource that's available to everybody. Like they're still trying to get, volunteers out. And so we really have to change that approach. And also a reason why it doesn't work is because it mirrors the court system. It mirrors the court process. Like it's led by the DA's office, and I think before that, like it is heavily influenced and by police. And so that's not a comfortable environment where we're focusing on the restoration of just our community, when you have these institutions that already cause so much harm in our community lead in these initiatives.
Mm.
So yeah, we definitely got to get more restorative programming here, and we should probably just start talking about that. We got to get it out here and really get folks to invest in it, because it is an answer, at least part of the solution.
I agree.
Yeah. So every meeting, we start off by just going through our community agreements for our hub. And the community agreements are basically a list of principles and values that help guide our exchanges throughout our meetings, and hopefully, help guide, just our everyday experiences as we, navigate this world. So we thought it would be cool to, talk about those agreements here on these episodes. So, Insight, I know you have one of the agreements for us today to discuss a little bit, right?
Yes. So the agreement that I would like to discuss is humanism. So that means we agree to put people first and to create an environment where we promote the well-being of others, and that is a philosophy of the word humanism.
So, what does humanism mean to you?
Um, Humanism meaning that in our work that we're literally promoting the well-being of other people and putting people first in our mission.
Yeah. I think to me, humanism is about just connecting on the most natural and authentic levels,
Right.
right? It's like seeing the person across from you, and just, valuing that spirit, that heartbeat, that breath.
Right.
And so, like, for me, humanism is extremely important because we live in this capitalistic society where we're not always viewed as people, or we're only valued as much as we can produce, especially like in the society today when, we're expected to work, 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 work. We're not really holistically supported in, these workspaces. And so it's great to have a space that really looks at you as just like a person and really embodying, what it means to support the well-being, the holistic well-being of others. So,
Right.
talk to me a little bit about, um, talk to me a little bit about why. Talk to me a little bit about why humanism is so important, especially when we're dealing with the criminal legal system, and also like how does our approach contrast from the approach of, the court system?
Yeah, so our approach look a little bit different when we talk about humanism. So usually when we talk about the criminal legal system, they come with a more punitive approach. They don't really look at the holistic well-being of young people. They look at them as criminals, if they have done wrong. but we look at people like you just made a mistake and there's a better way and a more effective way to learn from this mistake. There's a better way to do it, and that is literally how we create change. That is literally like the most holistic solution out there.
Yeah. And when you think about the courts, you said something about, a holistic solution, a holistic approach. The courts really, they look at you as a number. As soon as you go in there, you're that docket number to them. You get what I'm saying? And then when you actually go into the system deeper, like God forbid you're arrested and incarcerated, you get a PP number. So just in that, like we're branding people and dehumanizing people from the beginning.
Right.
And so it's even like even to set up the fact that in most cases, the majority of cases, you have a lawyer who's representing you. And so it's like the court is not even talking to you, the person who's like involved in the situation. They're talking about you to somebody else who's speaking for you. So it's like we're not dealing with people as humans. And I think that's like once that barrier is broken, because I had an experience where a while ago I was going through the court system and I actually like represented myself after firing a public defender that wasn't supporting me the way I needed to. And just in the fact that now that I was representing myself, the judge had to talk to me directly and the DA had to talk to me directly. We saw an entirely different approach, because they had to deal with me as a human being. And so that's just something to think about. And I know we want to take that into the work. So what's a way that folks could practice humanism in their everyday lives? What's something that, our viewers can do to really embody humanism on a day-to-day?
Yeah. So looking from it from like a more organizational standpoint is literally like, okay, if this is the mission, if this is what I'm expected from these young people, let's make sure that while these young people are moving this mission, let's make sure they have food. Let's make sure that, they're provided stipends when they're taking time to, come and to learn and be more informed. Would that look like from, a more systematic point of view? If I was somebody who worked in the criminal legal system, let's try to bring somebody who is a restorative practitioner from out of the community into the court system. So that way, before they even go through the process, maybe they could just go through the restorative process instead of having their whole lives turn apart and, just putting more harm on harm.
Yeah, that's great. I also think just you gave great perspectives from like the organizational and the systemic standpoint, but just on like the everyday level, like check in with people.
Right.
A lot of the times it's interesting. We have social media, and in a way, social media is supposed to connect us, but I feel like we have all this technology that's supposed to connect us, but we're more disconnected than ever before. And so just like try to find time to check in with people on like a personal human level. Whether it's, if you have time, maybe instead of getting on a Zoom, maybe you get coffee, or instead of, sending a text, maybe you send a call, or maybe you just, pull up and visit somebody. But, just prioritizing those face-to-face in-person interactions is important. But we also want to hear from y'all. What does humanism mean to you? And also, what are some things that, people could do every day to embody that philosophy? Add your comments down below. All right, everybody. So for this next segment, we're going to be talking systems education, and we have a very special guest. Luna Young will be joining us. Luna is not only the co-director of Day One Not Day Two, she's also the media justice coordinator for the Delco Youth Hub. She helps us with our social bio videos, doing the interviews, directing. Thank you for joining, Luna. Thank you for taking the time out of your very busy day to, come be with us, little people. How are you?
I am well. Little people, big heart, let me say. All right. How y'all feeling today?
Well, it's good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's good to be here. This is our very first episode of the Protected People podcast presented by the Delco Youth Hub. So I'm excited. And I'm looking forward to this conversation we're about to have, because you're going to talk to us about what we can do if we're ever arrested.
Yep. So I'm going to share a couple of tips. And first off, know that you're being arrested. it doesn't matter how forceful or aggressive, right? An officer asks to speak with you, right? It's exactly that. It's a question. They're asking to speak with you. You want to make sure that you know that you're being like forcefully detained. So ask that question, like, am I being arrested? Right. First step. As you're moving through that whole process, right? Not resisting arrest, just moving through. They're going to, you're going to go into processing. You're going to be taken, your things are going to be taken. You're going to be, what's the word, like fingerprinted, all of that. You want to make sure that you ask for a receipt for your things. Also, in that whole process, make note of who it is that, you're moving through this process with. What is their name? If you have a badge number, that's great. But just, ask for a paper trail and keep note of everyone that you're coming in contact with. And at any point in this process, you are free to ask for a lawyer. Honestly, the earlier the better. Because you have a right to counsel if you do not know what is going on, if you are confused, if you would like help, if you just like to move through this more effectively, ask for a lawyer. Those are, yeah, my main tips right now. Y'all have anything additional for the people?
Just heavy on the ask for a lawyer because we at the Delco Youth Hub, we're not lawyers.
We're not.
We're just people who have experience, and we try to use that experience to help the community. So we might give suggestions based off of what we've experienced because there is power in that. There's power in the people. Just because you didn't pass a bar exam doesn't mean we're powerless when it comes to navigating these systems.
Right.
But in all cases, you definitely should consult with a lawyer because we don't give legal advice. I'm gonna say it again. But anyway, do you have anything to add to that? Luna gave us some brilliant tips. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm very familiar with off of personal experience is usually if you come in contact with a police officer during arrest, they usually will like write a slip, like a number on a slip. And I learned that you can actually look that up in the system to like basically get the notes from the incident. So that's really helpful as well. I'm not sure with like what it's called, but I definitely know that it is something that you can look into once you have that little slip.
Yeah. Look for the little slip, everybody.
Yeah.
Little slip. Honestly though, I think you brought up a good point, Luna, when you talked about make sure you know when you're arrested, right? Because you would think that it's common sense, but there's cases out there where a person is not, under arrest, but yet they're not free to go. And so their rights were violated. And so it's very important that like when you're not under arrest and when you are under arrest. I think the difference is that we would just want to put out there, when you're under arrest, you're being detained. You can't go on your own free will because, they're restricting your movement, restricting your freedom. Pay very close attention to those words. Your freedom and your movement is being restricted.
Right.
If the police are doing that and they're not arresting you, then that's a violation of your rights. Right. And so it's very important to know. And also, if you're not under the arrest, you're free to go at any time. So yeah, just that. I think that point, it seems so simple, but it's also often overlooked.
Yeah.
And then something else that's very much overlooked is like, you have the right to remain silent.
Yes.
Everybody has the right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything to police except for like your name and like where you live or something like that. And so you don't have to feel pressure to answer questions, no matter how forcefully they're asking, no matter how much they're trying to coerce you or kind of guilt you into it or suggest. They always play this game. Like your friend already told us, especially if we used to get arrested a lot as youth and just running around with the friends in the neighborhood, and they will always say like, yeah, that guy in there, he already told us everything, so you might as well tell. That is never true. That is never and even if it is true, you telling and saying things and giving more information is probably going to make it worse for everybody involved. Like they always do that. And it's like, you'll be funny. Like sometimes people will fall for it and then get out like, damn, what you tell them, bro? And it's like, nah, bro, you just fell for it. Like they use, it's a shame that we laugh at it, but it's really a shame that, they were using like these mind tricks on, children. And like I'm pretty sure they knew, but a lot of people, take for granted is that could actually, you know, start deeper issues within the community, within the neighborhood. You're saying this person is telling and they're not, like that's actually putting that person at risk
At
of
risk,
like
yeah.
violence and just Lord knows what. So yeah, wow. Eureka moment right there. That was fucked up. Like we're laughing. It was
It's
honestly
serious.
fucked up. But yeah, that was good. That receipt, definitely keep those receipts and see if you can get your property back.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at me like that? Because I said fucked up. Can we not say that on? Hopefully, debug lessons put this
Maybe
up
we could
because
cut that out.
yeah, I don't
Be
know.
yourself.
Yeah, but yeah, thank you so much for that, Luna. Is there any other tips? I think something I would just also offer is like be calm, be
Yeah.
present. Do you have any
Yeah.
tips for people like staying calm throughout the process? Because getting arrested could be like traumatic for a lot of people.
Yeah, I would definitely say don't allow officers to persuade you. I feel like we kind of touched on that a little bit, but even if they're coming off like a little nice and it seemed like they're about to like cut you short or something, yeah, still exercise your rights. You definitely have right to remain silent and not to engage with them at all, even if you're in an escalated situation.
Yeah. And I'll just touch on a little bit more there. You said to be calm. And we do have rights. We do have a lot of rights. Even when your rights aren't being honored, still stay calm, right? Because that can just lead to more problems.
Yeah.
How can people stay calm though? Like, let's put
Yeah.
ourselves in their shoes. Like, it's one thing to say it. Like, what does that look like? What are some tips when you're in this heightened situation? You might have this cop that's yelling. He might have a gun to your head.
Yeah.
You know, it might be
Really
a lot going
reactive.
on. Something very bad might have just happened. So, how can one practice, being calm and present in this situation? What are some tips?
Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind always when you want to stay calm is to take deep breaths, right? So control your breathing. So be present to your breathing. But something else that can be really helpful is reflective listening. Especially like if you're in a high-end situation, someone's saying something to you, just repeat it back as a question. It gives you time to like fully understand. It also gives you time to take some deep breaths. And it creates as honest of a conversation as possible, because you are still a person with rights in this moment, even as you're being arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah, and heavy on you don't have to say anything back, but
Yeah.
I think the breathing is definitely good advice because even sometimes when I'm not going to say it's necessarily a high end situation, but for me, if I'm not present to my breathing, like I get feel myself getting worked up sometimes, and then if you just like see, then I feel better. Then I feel good. Sometimes
That's
that's
all we
all it
need.
takes, is being
Yeah.
being present to that. And I will also say that understand that even though it might seem like that arrest and what you're going through right now is, like the most important thing or the most, traumatic thing that's happening in the moment, understand that it's temporary,
Yeah.
um, and that there's going to be time after to address everything that's going through your head
Right.
right now. A lot of the times we start thinking, our mind starts racing when we're in this heightened state, and it's like
Mm.
so much comes up. You want to talk to this person, you want to talk to this person, you have so many questions, not enough answers. You're agitated, you might be scared, fearful, and it's like, understand that, there hopefully will be time and a place to address and answer all those questions that you might have.
Yeah.
And sometimes the best thing that you could possibly do in this state is just practice and be attentive to your breathing. So I thank you for that. Um, worry about that.
I just wanted to add that I believe cops are like they do have a law where they have to keep their video camera on. So somebody, ever feel like, they're in harm's way or like that cops are like really being aggressive. Something I don't know, I was just thinking about is probably like getting down in prayer position. Like who can shoot you in prayer position? It's just like a very awkward thing to do.
You
So
you will you'll be surprised. You'll
yeah.
be surprised. But yeah, I think that definitely checking and asking the officer, is your body camera on, is
Yeah.
also a good tip as well, because in certain states, I don't think it's everywhere, but there are certain jurisdictions where, you know, they're required to have their body cam on
Right.
at all times. And so that's video of the
Right.
event as well, and an added layer of security.
Evidence. Yeah.
You know. All right, y'all. Well,
Yeah.
I think we did this
Yes.
pretty well. Thank you for joining us, Luna. We appreciate
so
that,
much.
and we look forward to meeting with other Delco Youth Hub and getting more information and more suggestions and advice from, you know, folks at the hub about just how we could navigate through these systems and what people can do to impact and potentially get the best possible outcome at every stage. So we look forward to what's to come. Again, you know, thank you and enjoy the rest of your evening.
For sure. Power to the people. Have a good night, y'all.
Have a good night.
Peace, peace, peace.
Now moving on to our movement updates.
So we're excited to announce we have a jam-packed February for y'all. It's also Black History Month, so happy Black History Month, everybody. We're going to be starting off February 2nd at Swarthmore College with our Building Bridges Showcase. It's an evening of art and community. It's going to be at 7 p.m. at the Lane Center for Civic Engagement at Swarthmore College, and it's a multimedia showcase featuring the artwork of incarcerated students enrolled in Eastern University's prison education program. So there's going to be art, there's going to be poetry, and then you also have performances from myself and Insight the Mindful Rapper. So if you're in the area, if you like music, if you like art, or you just want to come and support and uplift the voices of those behind the walls, come out, be in community with us. We'll love to see you there. What else you got for us, Insight?
So next we have the Community Newsroom pop-up with Generosity. So that's February 17th from 12 to 4 p.m. at the Keystone Wellness Center. So that's basically a vibrant and engaging platform for community-centered information and media that explores the human side of the issues of our local philanthropic and government leaders and what we're addressing.
And then on the 24th of November, the Activation Tours 2024 kicks off. So if y'all haven't downloaded or listened to my album, The Activation, is streaming on all platforms. Search The Activation by Day One, Not Day Two. That's all spelled out. But yeah, we're kicking off the tour on 2/24, and we're going to be in Denver. So anybody in the Denver area that wants to come check us out, definitely come through and support. It's an inspiring and transformational experience for community-centered connections that explore the power of narrative through music and poetry. And it's not just a concert. Like I said, it's going to be workshops, it's going to be activations, it's going to be courageous community conversations. It's one of our bigger tours, so it's definitely going to be lit. It's myself and Alan, the official, and we also have some guests from Denver coming out. So it's going to be a good time if you're in the area. You know, it's going to be my first time in Denver, so I need some folks to show me around. So, you know, hit us up, let us know if you can come out. And lastly,
we have our Authentic Youth Engagement Training. So that's going to be February 27th to February 28th. So the Authentic Youth Engagement Training is developed and facilitated by System Impacted Young People and aims to prepare the Public Defender's Office to establish effective partnerships with young people. So that's going to be in Philadelphia and facilitated by myself and Day One.
And if you are a young person or you know a young person who's been impacted by the criminal legal system and wants to help contribute to the training, you know, this is like high level, next level stuff. I'm very, very excited for this. You know, I'm actually surprised at how, you know, how aware the Public Defender's Office are. Like, they reached out to us about this training and they really wanted to find ways to support young people in an authentic and genuine way. And so for anybody that wants to be part of that or contribute to it, definitely get with us. It's going to be a great event. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to our very first episode of the Protect Your People podcast, presented by the Delco Youth Hub. I'm your host, Day One, Not Day Two.
And I'm your host, Insight, and I promise we'll do better next time.
I promise we'll do better next time. Please come back. Please come see us again. It'll be better. I promise. I promise. Yeah, let's go.